Welcome to the What If podcast with your hosts, Spencer Worth Davis and Ryan Copperrood.
Why are we so interested in the paranormal, you think?
Well, because, Larry, when we're done here on Earth, we all want to know that there's something else out there, don't we? And that is the land of the paranormal. And if there are ghosts, then that's proof that there's life after death, right?
So would you say the most unexplainable thing is death?
Of course it is.
The thing we know the least about. We have
and
faith.
The thing, as I said earlier, the thing we fear the most, the thing we quietly contemplate the most, of course it's death. Because cosmically, we're here not that long.
We lost probably the greatest to ever do it last week, Ryan.
The legend, the OG, the man before us.
Yeah. R.I.P. to Art Bell. He died last Friday, April 13th, of course.
Of course he died on a spooky day.
And we thought we'd take today's show to
reflect.
To reflect and remember all of the amazing, decades worth of content that Art Bell put into the world.
So, you introduced me to Art Bell first in my life.
Yep.
Was not familiar with Art before you introduced me to him. And
dude, you have such a good time ahead of you whenever you
decide to go dig into the Coast to Coast archives.
Next time you drive somewhere or take a flight or whatever, just download some Art Bell highlights.
Where does one find Art Bell highlights on the internet? I mean, he never had a podcast, right? He was all pre-podcast time.
I think all the Coast to Coast, or a lot of the Coast to Coast stuff, is archived on their website still.
Okay, so you can stream it through there.
I think you have to pay for it.
Oh, jerks.
The free option is YouTube, because a lot of people have
put full episodes up and stuff.
Well, yeah, people used to record onto cassettes, full episodes of Coast to Coast, and then some people have uploaded those onto YouTube. So you can find, if you type Art Bell and then Mel's Hole or Area 51 or whatever you're looking for, you can usually find it, or at least excerpts of it.
Yep.
And then the more recent stuff that's been digitized, I don't encourage stealing from content providers, but a lot of people have, I think, downloaded stuff from the Coast to Coast website and then re-upload it elsewhere.
Guys, we're content providers. Don't steal from us.
Our shit's free. Do whatever you want with it.
You're right. Our shit is free.
Speaking of,
just don't.
We've been getting lots of people have been biting us lately. First,
we gotta talk about some shit. Fuck.
One of us just blew up our microphone.
Sorry, it was me. If you guys thought Ryan or Spencer would blow up their microphone, which one of us do you think it would be?
Good point.
Sorry, but it prompted a yell because I'm fucking pissed.
First, my favorite murder comes in with the episode named Robot Grandma, which I listened to it after someone posted it in the Facebook group.
Not a single reference to us.
No, it had nothing to do with us.
Those are two nouns that don't go together unless you know the Robot Grandma story, which we told on the show.
We got there.
Right, but because of the Robot Grandma story that we told on this show.
Well, right, but I'm just saying if we put, it's not like those are
own Robot Grandma.
No, we should, as someone pointed out, trademark the stupid things that we say on here that people think are funny.
We can't just TM all of our jokes, though.
But the best ones we could.
Well, I guess.
Maybe should. I don't know.
I mean,
hit us with the legal advice at hi@whatifpodcast.com. We could use it.
We got some legal homies. We'll holler at us.
Anyway, and then somebody made a We Outta Here, or We Out Here?
We Out Here.
We Out
Here.
Alien
We Out Here
shirt that's being sold at Zoomies or
fucking Zoomies,
Hot Topic or whatever
fucking
it was.
Zoomies.
Is that what it was?
It was Zoomies.
Urban Outfitters.
Look, the reality is, I am prepared.
We're just unoriginal.
What is that? The reality is, I'm prepared to rap battle all these people. In fact, I
don't think they are.
That's why it would be better, because we would win right away. Just add Zoomies every day with our YouTube video of me battling Zoomies and be like, what's your marketing department going to do about this, bros?
Probably nothing.
Or Just
Would
at
be
my
guess.
favorite murder on Twitter every single day with a YouTube video of me just absolutely lyrically slaughtering
No, we should be
those
nice
hosts.
to them.
Why?
Did you just call them hoes?
No, those hosts.
I was like, that's really aggressive. And you should chill out.
No. Come on, we're not like that on here.
Just making sure.
I said they're hosts.
Oh, yeah. We should be nice to them. They'd make a podcast that a lot of people like, and it's pretty good.
Or we could
Or
get
you
into
could
a
do
big
what-
ass beef with them.
You could do that too, I guess.
and have all of our listeners at mention
If
them.
you want to be the Wale of the podcast world, you go ahead.
Oh man, that is a thin strip of listenership who is going to get that joke, but it's a good joke.
On the list of things we should trademark, Ryan Copperwood, aka the Wale of the podcast world.
Absolutely refuse to even remotely be compared to Wale in the podcast world.
Who's who are the other like classic beef losers?
Beef losers.
Meek didn't do so well recently.
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones of the see, that's perfect because it's got
Actually-
a cult reference.
That's true. And also Jim Jones is tight. So I would be okay with being referred to as the Jim Jones of the podcast world if I needed to be.
There you go.
But yeah, maybe that's just what happens, man. We've done the show for enough hours and
Said enough things.
yeah, I think that
that's all it is, brah.
the universe is circling back around to us.
Anyway, we're here to talk about Art Bell.
Speaking of hours of doing the podcast.
Or maybe we're not.
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
Speaking of hours of doing the podcast. So, I think like a good way to set up Art Bell is like, I know a lot of people know about Dreamland and Coast to Coast and his shows and stuff like that. But
Midnight in the Desert.
Midnight in the Desert, it was good for me to, in my research for this episode to like reflect on, like you said, like the longevity of this dude's career.
And the fucking peaks that he hit at times.
So I saw at one point, well, actually, can I read you something really quick?
Probably.
So could fuck it up, but might read it. There's this great Washington Post article that came out in like 1999 or like 2000 that was about art.
I think that was like peak Coast to Coast era.
Yeah. And I think like for those of you who do or don't know art, I think this article does a really good job of like setting the scene of this dude's life and like who he like was or is. So I'm going to read, we can link to this on whatifpodcast.com, but I'm going to read just like a couple quick paragraphs of this article. It was a profile that they did on art, like you said, during peak Art Bell fame.
When 20 million people were listening to him every night.
Yeah. So 80 miles west of the nattering neon assault that is Las Vegas, a narrow road leads to Pahrump, an ancient Indian settlement poised for development as the next gambling paradise. Not far from the town's main drawing cards, legal brothels called Sherry's Ranch and the Chicken Ranch, Bell's trailer commands a plot of sand and rock surrounded by satellite dishes and a chain link fence. By day, it's nothing special. The hideout of just one more American who found his piece of paradise and straightaway nailed up a no trespassing sign. But at night, when the crystal black sky explodes with stars and the mountains offer a scarf of darkness, this trailer is transformed into a transmitter of freakish fear and the sweetest of hopes. Kept company by a fistful of phone lines, a trio of computers, an atomically synchronized clock, and a framed bare-breasted photo of the actress Shannon Doherty, a 52-year-old man who hasn't had a good night's sleep in 9 years, offers an insomniac nation a host of extravagant, extraordinary, and even extraterrestrial possibilities. I thought that was
Fuck yeah, he did.
I thought that was a really beautiful piece of writing it's by Mark Fisher. The article is called The Outer Limits, A Lone Voice in the Desert Lures 10 Million Listeners. And yeah, I think that was right in the time where he was getting like between 10 and 20 million listeners a night. He was like the overnight. He was the fifth most popular radio host in the country. And he was broadcasting from Pacific time, 10 p.m. to 3 in the morning. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he was...
yeah, because it always started at midnight here. So that'd be right. Yeah.
So 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Pacific till 3 in the morning. So he was doing 5 hours a night basically overnight. I mean, in New York City.
Also, 5 hours of radio is fucking crazy.
Okay, so
By himself.
Yeah, bro.
No producer, no engineer.
Yeah, bro.
Like literally no one. Just
Yes.
him in his house for 5 hours every night. Every single night.
I did some very rough math, like
Or
very
5
rough
nights a
math.
week, I think, but whatever.
Yeah. I think there's a distinct possibility that this dude over the course of his career did. So I took an average of 5 shows a week.
Dude was on air 25 hours a week.
25 hours a week? Is that
quick.
real?
If he was doing 5 hours a night.
Okay, so I did 5 nights a week for 5 hours a night for 52 weeks a year for 15 years.
Okay. I don't know if he actually did, like, if he never took, I'm sure he took a night off here.
And that's why I'm saying, like, it was like very, very ballpark math. But even if, like, throughout the course of his career, he somehow hit that rough
I'm
metric.
sure he did, because his career was a lot longer than 15 years.
Right.
Also.
And he came in and did additional shows and rebooted shows later on in his career. But that motherfucker did over 15,000 hours of radio.
Like, actually on the air.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if you were to go back through the archives, it would be 15,000 hours of fucking radio.
Yeah.
That's insane, bro. We've done this show. We've done this show for like
Yes, it is.
200 hours. And I'm like, damn, we got a lot of back catalog for people to go through.
Yeah, dude,
Like, no, we don't.
We do 2 hours a week, basically.
Yes.
He was doing 25.
He was doing almost triple what we do a week every night.
Yeah, right. Right.
That's fucking wild.
And then, like, you have to prep something. Like, a lot of what he
Well-
did. I mean, he had open phone lines for a good portion of that, but still,
Which is
like,
also wild.
he did news stories and he did current events stuff and he would lead segments. It wasn't like it was only open phone lines. He still had to prepare a show every night. Crazy. And I'm
Crazy.
sure you over prepare, if anything, because you know that you're live on the air for 5 hours.
Right. And if you don't have anything to talk about, you're like, well, shit.
Right. And especially early on when you're not getting 20 million listeners, like you can't count on good phone calls every single night.
No way. Especially for the early parts of your shit. Like you gotta be ready to either coax the most out of your one call you get a night or.
And he was really, really incredible as an interviewer.
Yeah.
Especially not having a single clue, like unscripted, unscreened. Someone's just calling you and you're just going to talk to them live on the air.
Right.
And you know it's going to be something weird.
Because that's what you're asking for or putting out into the universe.
Like have you ever gone through any of the open phone lines highlights?
I don't think I have actually.
Dude, just hit like Art Bell open phones on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would be everything from, I was listening to one today and this happened, like he had what he called an Antichrist line.
Awesome.
Where people who claimed to be Antichrist could call him and he would just talk to dude for 10 hours or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And like, obviously they were probably all just people who wanted to talk to Art Bell and were fucking
Gonna make
with him.
up some shit
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah.
But that was like, he had the perfect balance in all of those of, I'm going to let you say whatever you're going to say. And I'm going into this with an open mind and I'm just sort of passing this along to my listeners.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm going to tell you what I think when you're done. Like, I'm going to give you an opportunity to convince me or not convince me or to give me some new information. And I'm going to play along.
For sure.
For as long as you want to go. But then also, like, along the way, if you say some shit that doesn't make sense.
I'm going to ask you a question about that thing.
Right. Or even when he would often do open phone lines for time travelers.
Yeah.
So if you're a time traveler, call me. I want to talk to you. And you just put him on the air like he did with everybody.
Right.
But I was listening to one yesterday where he was talking to this guy who said he was from the year 2063. And it's one of the more famous ones. It's this dude who called himself Single Seven.
Wasn't his name like it was supposed to be like part of the unit he was from or something?
Yeah. And this one went on for like an hour and a half. But it's this elaborate story about how he's come back from 2063 or something because he's part of some organization that's in a battle for the planet with the MIM, who it sounds like are the gray aliens. And they're trying to warm up the planet because the MIM can't handle the heat. And so he had to go back to the past and get crops to splice with crops in the future to create like GMO crops that can sustain higher temperatures.
Amazing.
Anyway, so he's talking to this dude for like an hour and a half, just no breaks, nothing. I mean, had to go commercial a couple times, but whatever. And he says to him at one point, so you're from the year, or he asked me like, what is this like in the year 2036? And the guy stops him and he's like, I'm from the year 2063. And Art was like, yeah, okay, I was just seeing if you'd go with me. And so like
he's like, I'm trying to catch you, motherfucker.
Right. And he would totally indulge and like let the dude say what he was gonna say. And like, to be fair, if you had to talk for an hour and a half about being a time traveler from the future,
that would be hard as fuck.
Battling the gray aliens for crops because you're trying to warm the planet by 15 degrees.
Dude, it's so hard.
And not sound like a total asshole within the first 5 minutes, much less an hour and a half.
Right.
Especially with somebody as sharp as Art Bell. Like,
it'd be hard.
It's fascinating I'm assuming that these calls are just elaborate pranks or like... Sure. But they're entertaining.
Let's give them the same credit Art gave them.
They're entertainment, and Art presented it as such most of the time.
Yeah.
But like, that would be really hard to do if you're improvising it. And even if you had planned it out and written out a script, like you don't know where that conversation is going to go. And you didn't plan for an hour and a half of, there's so many variables in terms of like, what if he asks about this or this or this, or what if we go in this direction? You
got to be able to react quickly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing that, I was curious about related to Art was I guess he did it for a really long time, and over a really long time, you generate a lot of phone calls, and out of those phone calls, the number of them that will be remembered, if he did,
some of them weren't that good.
If he did 16 to 20,000 hours worth of radio in his lifetime, we're going to remember maybe 500 to 1,000 of those hours.
Some segments are obviously better than others.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But like, still,
the good ones are really, really good.
Yeah.
And even the bad ones are like, it's not him.
Right.
He gotta, and he would.
And he would shut off things that were shitty, and he would turn back on for things that were, or he would draw out the ones for an hour and a half that deserved it. And if somebody was like,
he would just straight up cut people off sometimes too. He'd just be like, thank you, I have to go, and hang up on somebody and go to the next one. Like, thanks for calling, goodbye.
Yeah.
After 30, if it was somebody who was obviously messing with him or like getting into topics that just weren't for the show. Like, I was listening to, somebody compiled some of the, like those lowlights on YouTube. And there was one where a guy was talking about how he astrally projected himself inside of Art's house and was watching him sleep. And like, he took a long time to get to this. And at that point, Art was just like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
Like, I let you take this where you were going to take it.
You're creepy.
And now I need to go.
Yeah. I'm not into it anymore. Yeah. Your call is no longer wanted. We should clarify, when he was getting 10 to 20 million listeners a night, which again, crazy.
It's insane. What's the highest rated TV show right now? Like, what is something, and I don't know, I guess like, I don't even know what the range is, but what was like Game of Thrones do every week when it's on or something like that?
I think it's like 7 to 9 million. Like it is a lot, but I don't think it's in that number.
Can you imagine something airing at midnight or 1 a.m. Eastern?
I got to Google this right now because I know we're going to get a trillion emails if I don't actually know this number. Game
if we just purely speculate.
of Thrones. You guys
just like, what is the highest rated network TV show do? Because like obviously HBO is different.
Bull sharks and salmon can swim in both fresh.
I love you guys, but if I get another fucking email about bull sharks, I swear to God.
We definitely fucked up in the Nessie episode.
We get it. We're dumb. I don't know why you guys expect us not to be dumb at this point. Like, we say a million things that are wrong on every episode.
I just thought the funniest.
Why bull sharks?
I just thought the funniest part was, what you just said. We are wrong about so many things on a weekly basis,
And
but
normally-
being wrong about the ability for an animal to cross between fresh and saltwater animal was the one that got y'all. And I think we got literally between tweets, Facebook messages, and emails, like over 100 people hit us up when they were like,
Dude, and-
nope.
Yeah, like normally if we mess something up, I'll get like a handful of emails in the next week.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, actually it was this place. Like
Yes.
I did it last week when we were talking about megaliths, and I said Pumapunku, and I meant another site. And so I said it was in the wrong country because I just said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And we got like 2 or 3 emails saying like, actually it's in Peru or whatever.
Right.
Or it's not in Peru. And it's in Bolivia. And cool, great.
Yes.
And then like it'll stop after a week usually. I'm still getting bull shark emails, and we've gotten like 100 of them, and I don't know like what was different about sharks.
Maybe it's
y'all just really like you guys just fucking ride for sharks like no one else.
I mean, I get it.
That's our
Sharks
audience is
are
shark
tight.
enthusiasts.
Maybe what we
That
should
didn't show up on our demographic survey.
Hey, we love y'all for keeping us honest. All right, thank you. Maybe we should start doing a
It's a good thing.
correction
It means
show.
you guys are listening and paying attention. But fuck, man, I don't know what it was about bull sharks.
We pissed some of y'all off. No one was shitty about it. Everyone was just like, hey, actually, that was the tightest part. Was everybody who corrected us was like, hey, you guys said there isn't anything that does it, but just so you know, this is actually a cool animal that does that thing. All the corrections came from like a very loving place.
I probably sound mad. I'm just like.
We were impressed.
Yeah, no one was rude. No, I mean, like, it was fine.
We were
It was
impressed by
it
how
was
much
weird.
y'all cared.
Okay. Highest rated, you got Thrones first?
Yeah, I got it. Did you?
Go for it.
Okay. The highest rated Game of Thrones episode thus far was the season finale at the end of the 2017 season, which came, in August of 2017.
Yeah.
And it, quote, smashed the series record for ratings and attracted, do you want to guess how many viewers? I was wrong, for whatever that's worth.
12.
Exactly.
Oh, damn.
12.1 million viewers, according to Nielsen.
Okay. So he was doing.
When you include HBO Go and the standalone HBO Now app.
Yeah, fuck that, though, because all of Art's listeners were live.
True. I'm just saying, if you include all of the ways that you could ingest the show, it got up to 16.5 million.
Okay. And he was doing estimated 15 to 20 at the peak of Coast to Coast.
Bro, think about how popular the show Game of Thrones is.
Okay.
I can't go to work without hearing a motherfucker talk about Game of Thrones.
I have another point of reference for you.
Yes.
The highest rated, so 2-part question.
Yes.
Highest rated network TV show
Yes.
for last fall.
Okay.
And what was it? And how many viewers did it have?
Network TV show for last fall. Fuck, dude, I'm bad. I don't watch any network TV.
I'll give you a hint
Like-
that this includes sports.
Oh.
So like WWE or NFL or NBA or whatever.
For last fall?
Or I guess this is all of 2017 actually, but I think usually fall shit is, that's when most TV shows happen.
The Popinist?
Yeah.
Dude,
I think it's all of 2017 though.
Can you give me the network?
It was NBC,
NBC.
which is kind of surprising. I figured it would be CBS.
Were the Olympics all in 2018? They were, weren't they? Because they were after the new
It was
year.
all after January 1st. Yeah. That's so spread
fuck.
out too. I wonder if there's any one. There's probably not any one event that would draw more than like.
I don't know, like the hockey championship, the men's hockey championship,
Curling maybe.
figure skating. Dude,
Yeah.
people love figure skating. Dude, I don't even know if I could guess.
Football. Sunday Night Football.
Okay.
Sunday Night Football was the highest rated show with 18.5 million.
That's crazy.
Art talked about aliens at 2 a.m. to that many people.
And that motherfucker was getting 10 million people a night to listen to him.
15 to 20 depending on the year and the estimate, because he was syndicated to like hundreds of stations. So I think it's hard to get an exact number of listeners.
At maximum, they were satellite projecting to 400 different radio stations in the United States.
Fucking crazy, dude.
Here's a question. How many radio stations can you name in your own state? A handful?
10 to maybe 10-ish.
Yeah, so like half of the radio stations
And that's
in
like a thing that I
every
pay
state
attention
in
to.
the country. Yeah, exactly. And so half of the radio stations in every state in the country.
Well, no, because a lot of it was AM, and I can name one AM station.
I'm just saying, if of the ones you can name, half of them were broadcasting art.
Right, but I'm saying like he wasn't on clear channel stations in most of those places, and like they were. But that's the crazier thing. Like his show
was popping on places where people didn't actually fucking listen to radio.
Overnight AM radio a lot of the time. It's stupid.
So
more so than the fucking NFL on network television in prime time.
It's crazy. So before we get like into some of the more lovely Art Bell stories, you got to tell me about like your personal history with Art Bell, because I know you have one, which is part of the reason you introduced him to me in the first place.
I mean, it's the reason I was tracing it back on Friday when I heard about his passing, and like I think it was probably my introduction to like all of the shit that we talk about. Like the entirety of the paranormal, unexplained, aliens, all that shit. And my brother introduced me to it when I was probably, I don't know, 7th or 8th grade or something.
Yep.
And he would tape them.
Yep.
He would tape the shows. And this was, so I listened to some of, like, I would borrow tapes from him and listen to them. And then a couple years later, or maybe like, so this would have been, I don't know, 2000-ish, 99, 2000. I remember downloading a bunch of them off of Napster.
Fuck.
Because people would down, or I guess, I don't even know how, record the episodes onto a DAT or something and then upload them to Napster.
Yep,
or like
yep.
digitize cassettes or something. I mean, I guess digital recording existed by the time that Napster existed.
Yeah.
But people would record episodes and upload them to Napster. And I remember like, because we were rocking the 56K modem at my parents' house back in like 2000.
At that time,
and those episodes were huge. I mean, he was on for 5 hours. So they'd break them up into segments sometimes.
It would take hours to download an album, and that'd be like 45 minutes of music.
A song would take an hour or two sometimes.
If you got seated poorly, but that's when you canceled and you researched that motherfucker until you got a better seat.
But I remember like, and then you were using, we had one phone line, so I was blocking the phone line. So I would set up,
Mom, hang up the phone!
I'm trying to learn about
download art!
I need to hear about aliens. Linda Moulton Howe is on tonight.
It's a 5-hour long clip, Mom!
It would be like fucking a real audio file or something, and you'd download it, you'd have to convert like a 64K real audio file.
Or you're like, what the fuck do I have to... Oh my God. Or you'd be like, what the fuck kind of app do I have to download just to listen to this fucking weird freaky file that I just got?
Yeah, exactly. Half the time it would like be porn or something.
Yeah.
I guess that was more Kazaa's thing. Napster, you mostly got music.
Yeah, I got a little bit of both.
Kazaa and LimeWire is when it started getting real shady.
LimeWire was...
Yeah,
LimeWire was like coin flip. You were going to get like the grodiest shit you would ever encounter.
Or some random EXE file or like...
Yeah.
Within an hour of downloading that shit, your computer was just...
fritzed. Fully fritzed.
Yeah. But I remember like overnight setting up Coast to Coast episodes to download off of Napster, and then
waking up,
and then I would burn them onto CDs. But you'd have to burn like
two episodes on a CD.
Yeah, and even like I found an MP3 of the whole Mel's Hole saga,
which we
can talk about in a minute. But like that one played out over years and multiple episodes, and it's like, I don't know, the whole thing is like 6 or 7 or 8 hours long.
Amazing.
And I took just a stack of CDRs and would burn like 72 minutes at a time.
We're going in.
And I'd have to like chop up the audio myself in SoundForge to make.
Wow, dude, you are dropping some very...
I've been making music on computers since 99. So I've gone through some real shady...
Fuck with your boy!
Like every possible fucked up, stupid, shitty, free, torrented, I mean, before torrents were even a thing, like software, audio software I've had on some computer at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I had Sony Acid 1.0 on my parents' Gateway computer in 1999.
Acid was like a thing for a while.
It was great.
People use that for like a while.
I used to use that and SoundForge together. I'd chop up samples in SoundForge and then like arrange everything in Acid. But anyway, so that like downloading and burning CDs of it, because like I wasn't up, I had to go to school at 7 or whatever.
Yeah, you weren't awake till 3 a.m. listening.
Like sometimes I would listen to the first hour or two like on my radio because I could get it on, I think they used to play it on WCCO overnight.
Really? That's cool.
And then, or maybe it's either that or KSTP. It was like one of the two major AM stations here in the
We
cities.
live in Minnesota, guys, by the way.
Twin Cities.
Actually,
which is why we have W's and K's. Did you know that?
What do you mean? There's not a W or a K in Minnesota. I don't understand.
No, I said WCCO or KSTP.
Oh.
It's because the Mississippi is the dividing line for the call letters.
Oh, as in the West Coast
everything
is
east
K's,
of the Mississippi is
W's.
K.
No, east is W because WMYC.
Right. Everything east of Mississippi is W. Everything west is K. And
Is
we
it
have
only
both.
those two letters?
Yeah, everything starts with a W or a K.
Why?
I don't know.
That's
I don't really know how call letters work. But
fucking weird.
yeah. Art would always go, he would announce callers by west of the Rockies or east of the Rockies. I think that was just a weird thing that Art Bell did, though.
I love that.
Yeah. But anyway, and then like listening to tapes, and then I'd go back to my brother and be like, this person was talking about Zachariah Sitchin. Do you know anything about that shit? And then like, because he and my brother's 4.5 years older than me, and he and all of his friends were like juniors, seniors in high school when I was like in 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
And so they had like he had a paperback copy of Chariots of the Gods by Zachariah Sitchin, and like would put me on to other weird shit based on the weird shit that I discovered.
Tight. I saw a guy reading Chariots of the Gods at a bar the other day, and I was like,
whoa,
strong, dude.
Just sitting by himself reading. Okay.
Just drink. He was drinking beer,
Cool.
reading a book.
Sounds like a good time.
Hell yeah, dude. You're having it was at like 5:30 p.m. too. I was like, you are having a day, my guy. Good for you.
He knows what he likes.
Hell yeah. Shit, I love that, man. I love that you kind of grew up with dude. Like I said, I didn't really. I mean, I listened to a lot of radio, but I was exclusively focused on music, and I didn't have anybody who like introduced me to any like late night radio or any talk radio, like because I feel like when we were that age, it was always about who introduced you to what and when. Or a lot of it was
harder to. I mean, we grew up at a weird time where like
the internet didn't provide you everything at any given moment.
Yeah, but it was starting to. But you kind of had to know where to look to begin with.
I mean,
then the information was much more limited.
Yeah,
like,
definitely not like when you and I were in like elementary and middle school. Like when we were in elementary and middle school, it was like who had the tapes, who had the CDs, who could burn you a CD.
Yeah, Brian, I was born 86. You're 87.
And I'm 87. Yeah.
So middle school for us was like 99 to 01-ish.
Right. Which was like right when the internet was really taking hold.
Yeah, but still not really. Like
it wasn't great.
It wasn't clear that it was going to be what it is now yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember people being like, the internet's just a fad. Like
Right. Like I think I got a Hotmail.
We were at that stage in the development of what we have now.
Yeah, I think I got a Hotmail account when I was like 15 or 16,
wow.
like 2000 and...
My first email address was definitely an at AOL.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, everybody got the AOL CDs.
Right. I wish I would have. We were talking about this with Pete and Ben the other night or whatever week about how great it would have been to keep your AOL email address. And how much we would respect somebody at this point if like you got a business card and it was just like Jeff@AOL.com.
Yeah.
Like you just held on to that motherfucker for 20 years.
And you were like, I won't let it die.
I was in early. I got my name at AOL.com.
Yep.
My business card says Cindy@AOL.com. That's how you get a hold of me. Okay.
Yeah. It's easy. Dude, this shit's easy.
I was reminded of the very specific era that was the height of Art Bell.
Yep.
Because he would constantly talk about people. You could fax the studio.
And people did.
Oh, I'm sure like millions of people did.
But also like people would send him documents from the future
Yeah.
and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Dude.
What? Can we fax Art Bell? Is that what you're...
Well, no, Art's dead.
Well...
We can't get him
Or-
we can't get him anything at this juncture.
What just got you excited about faxes?
Do we get a fax machine for the studio and y'all can fax that shit?
That works by
Phone line
Phone
or
line,
internet.
right?
I think you can do it
you
through
can
the
do-
internet.
I honestly don't even really understand what a fax is.
Technology does not compute in my brain,
by
but
by the time I was old enough to use technology, faxes were already like going away, and I never needed to use it in like a professional setting. I don't really understand what a fax is, to be honest.
it's literally a scan of an image that gets sent over the internet and then printed back onto another piece of paper.
Okay. So
It's basically
but it doesn't
encoding
use-
the visual data, sending it.
through a phone line?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it just gets printed at the other end?
Yep.
Okay. So what would people fax us?
I don't care. I quite literally, it's the same reason we're getting a PO box, which we've been yelled at now that we have said we're getting and we haven't figured out yet, but we'll figure it out very soon.
I just gave Crystal Lady the studio address. She's going to mail us stuff.
Who?
The woman who wants to send us crystals.
Oh, tight.
Did you see her email?
Yeah. Well,
She was like, she gave us an amazing, like very thorough list of like, here are the 10 things that I would recommend and here's what they're used for. And I think you guys would like this. And I said, that sounds amazing.
Yes.
Here's the studio address because that's where they're going anyway.
wow.
Yeah. So hopefully those should be showing up here sometime.
Oh my God. We need to thank her so aggressively. I don't know how to do that, but we need to thank
I emailed
her.
her back and said thank you, but you can thank her more aggressively.
I don't know, like we should,
whatever that means.
I'm saying we should like, I don't know, does she want us to like shout something out or?
I don't know. Her name's Britta. She seems pretty tight.
Britta, thank you for the crystals. Holy shit. Also, speaking of listener emails, I don't think we talked about the website that was made for us.
Yeah, we did.
We talked about it on the Patreon.
Oh, okay. Well, would you like to?
I don't know. Should we take a momentary aside?
No, we should fucking talk about Art Bell because we're 40 minutes into this and we haven't talked about all the best Art Bell bits.
All right.
Go to canspencerdunkeyet.com if you would like a laugh.
And thank you to Mike and his homie for putting together that.
So, the classics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Art had like...
And based on your CD burning knowledge, we know that in your opinion, this is a pretty good opinion.
I mean, I'm sure there are, like you said, the dude did 15,000 hours of actual, I'm assuming, recorded radio. There's, I'm sure, many thousands of hours that I haven't heard. I'm not like...
I would imagine most
the
of
Art Bell
them.
authority by any means.
I would imagine most of the thousands of hours you have not heard.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's no way I've spent
Right.
more than 7,500 hours listening to Art Bell.
That's what I... Yeah.
Exactly. He had Bob Lazar on Coast to Coast.
Bobby!
Which is... It's actually not like his best interview just because Bob is so strange.
Was
And,
Bob on multiple times or just on a one time or a couple times?
I've only heard one,
Okay.
but that's not to say that he wasn't on
Didn't
more than
continue
once.
happening. Yeah.
He just the fact that Bob made like in that era had only made like 3 or 4 or 5, a handful of public appearances or statements.
Sure.
And this was the first like open free form interview that I knew about, at least with
the dude.
Yeah, with Bob. And then to have Art like actually, well, Art just doing Art Bell things of like, I'm going to grill you on this stuff, but I'm also going to be like friendly professional Art Bell dude and let you say what you want to say.
Tell me more about working at Area 51.
Yeah. And like, it seems odd to me that you don't remember these things. Why is that? And then, like, excuse me, sir, but that sounds like bullshit. Would you like to elaborate?
And honestly,
Obviously he didn't say that, but
No, but also said in such a smooth and relaxing.
He
and
had such an amazing radio voice.
Oh, God.
But just like very politely holding people's feet to the fire once in a while. And then sometimes not so politely, but like, that interview is amazing, and you should check it out if the Area 51 Bob Lazar stuff is interesting to you.
I gotta say, you know, I hope that we can only kind of aspire to be like a version of the ghost of Art Bell, in the way that we kind of like, we give light to all the things that we give light to, but we do it with both a like skeptical eye, but also like an enjoyment eye, you know? And like, I don't know, like I think his legacy of the way that he treated these topics of both being sort of admittedly kind of gullible, but like gullible because it's fun to be gullible sometimes, but also then like pulling it back into
it wasn't like
a realm of reality when it requires or when it makes more sense to. Or,
I wouldn't say he was gullible at all.
not
I would
gullible,
say like,
but displaying gullibility, I guess, in like he would allow for things while things were happening.
he was
to kinda
genuinely
see where they went.
curious, I think.
Yes, sure.
And not necessarily like I'm curious. I'm assuming what you're saying is true, and I'm curious about that.
Yes.
I'm curious about what you have to say and who you are,
Yes.
and whatever direction this conversation is going to go in.
Sure.
And regardless of how absurd it may seem at face value. And if it turns out to actually be totally absurd, then I can hang up on you whenever I want to.
And answer one of my other many phone calls.
I'm going to use my discretion to keep this entertaining for my audience.
Right.
We also, the clip that we opened with was actually not from any of Art Bell's shows.
No, yeah.
It was from an interview that he did with Larry King.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, they're in that interview, earlier in that interview, Larry asks him, like, have you always been interested in the topics that you talk about, like ghosts and aliens and all this stuff?
Right.
Time travel? Or, like, how did you get to this point? And he answers by talking about the time that he saw a UFO outside of his house with his wife.
Which didn't happen until, like, significantly into his career.
Yeah, I guess I don't know when it was.
It was
I have
like
the audio if you want to hear him tell the story.
Let's play it.
Okay. Here we go.
I'm on the way back from Las Vegas, and we're probably about a quarter mile from home. To give you the setting, it's almost a full moon. It's quiet. It's so quiet that you can hear crickets at a quarter mile. That quiet. We're on the last leg on the way home, and my wife
storytelling
said,
is amazing.
What the hell
So
is
good.
that? She was in the passenger seat, and she caught something coming up from behind. I said, I don't know. And I pulled the car over to the side of the road. We both got out, and here coming up from behind us, at about, I would guess, 150 feet, is a triangular object with 3 lights on it, 3 solid lights on it. One, I believe, was strobing in the front. It had to be about 150 feet from one point of the triangle to the next. It was monstrous. And
How far off the ground?
about 150 feet. It looked so big and so close that I could have thrown a rock at it.
No kidding.
I don't
Scared?
No, scared is not the right word. We watched it come up from behind us, Larry. And it came directly over our heads. Close Encounters of the Stars and the moon went away. And it made no sound. As it passed over our heads, you could hear the crickets at a quarter mile, Larry. Still, no propulsion, no noise, going, I guess, about 30 miles an hour. I was in the Air Force. I know what aerodynamic flight requires. And trust me, this thing was defying gravity.
Of course, the explanation would be that's an experimental Air Force base that's secret to everyone, and that probably is something they're working on.
Then, maybe so. But if we have anti-gravitic craft, that's almost as big a story as if they are here.
This defied the law of gravity.
Absolutely. 30 miles an hour, floating, not flying. And we watched it, we stood and we watched it go over the valley for about 5 minutes, kind of with our mouths on, open.
Why did that not make you a believer that there is something somewhere else?
It did make me a believer that there are things that we don't know about.
So even then, dude, like, sees a UFO in person from 150 feet away, and his response is like, I guess there's some stuff that I don't understand yet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah.
It is worth doubling down on the fact that the story that he's telling, I mean, he lived very close to Area 51. He lived in the desert.
Yeah, he lived in remote Nevada.
80-ish miles away from Vegas, and depending on your belief and or understanding of the size of Area 51, like not that far away.
Yeah. Other classics. So we mentioned Mel's Hole earlier. You want to get into that one?
I'd love to get into Mel's Hole.
Gross.
Hey, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful,
Okay.
big,
I'm just going to move on.
deep. I'm ready.
You good?
I'm
You
ready.
good?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready for you to pick it up wherever.
Okay. There was a guy who called into Coast to Coast one night named Mel Waters, who started telling Art about a hole that he had found on his property. He first called in February of '97.
I'm sorry. I got to stop you already. Can I ask you a question?
You already did.
When Mel calls Art for the first time, is Mel's intro to this? Hey, Art, listen. Great show. Long time, first time. Listen. Quick question. I got a hole. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I got a hole on my property. A hole? Yeah, it's in the ground. It's big. How do you intro that to Art?
Well, I mean, of course, Art is like, he's going to give you a chance.
Yeah. But I mean, it
And-
must have been kind of a version of that, right?
Well, I think the hook to the story is that this hole did not have a bottom to it.
Yeah.
It was allegedly a bottomless pit. And the early calls started with him attempting to measure the hole. And so he was attaching string to some sort of weight. He had fishing line and was and with a weight on the bottom, and was letting out fishing line to see how deep this thing was. And he ran out of like the 500 yards of fishing line that he had.
Never hit a ground bottom.
Right. And
He's like, I got to ask Art.
I'm going to go, well, and then, so he called him and he's like, well, I'm going to go get some more fishing line tomorrow or on Monday or whatever, and I'll call you back and I'll let you know. And then it progressed to, and this dude lived in like rural Washington and owned like a lot of property. And this hole was somewhere on his property.
Many acres, bro.
And it then progressed to, well, one of my animals died. And to dispose of it, I was like, well, I have this bottomless pit. I guess I don't need to bury this animal. I'll just chuck it down this bottomless pit.
Damn, Mel! God damn!
And he threw the animal. I don't remember if it was like a dog or whatever it was. I think it was a dog. He throws the dog down the pit.
Why is that worse? I'd rather it be like a cow.
Well, I don't think the hole was that. He'd have to like shove it down. I don't think it was that big.
Oh, I thought it was
imagining
like
like
a
a-
pit.
I've always imagined, I don't know if this is just me, but I think it was like well-sized.
Oh.
I think. I could be making that up though.
No, I didn't let you listen to the whole saga, man.
Anyway, he threw the dog down the well, and the dog and the dog showed up alive on his property the next day. So now he has this bottomless pit that also
Regenerates life.
resurrects animals that you chuck down it.
Yo,
And so the story, like, he would keep calling back in every, whatever, I think he called like 4 or 5 times over like 5 years. And the story would be a little more elaborate each time. And there would be new developments. He would call back because he saw federal agents on his property. Or he had figured out a different way to measure the hole. And he had measured it as deep as 80,000 feet, he said. Which is quick maths. That's like many miles.
5,280 feet.
Right. So 10, I don't know, like 14 miles or something.
What?
Nope. No, yeah.
I said what? And
yeah.
you said nope.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Over like 7.
And you guys are mad that we don't know about sharks.
We're talking about like
I can't do math.
17 or 18 miles deep.
Hold on. What did I say? 14? We'll
said
see
14.
how bad of a guess that was.
It was about 18 miles.
80,000. We're going to get an exact answer.
Yeah,
Divided
no,
by
I'm just saying.
5,280. It's 15.
What do you mean?
I mean 80,000 divided by 5,280
Oh, right, because it's less
is
than 10.
15.
No, I strayed down the other side. See, I'm the fucking
Yeah,
math.
you got me. I said 14
I'm the
something,
math
and you looked
moron.
at me like I was crazy. I was within one.
Yeah, no, but see, this is why we're a bad team. Is because we're both very dumb at math.
Ryan, did you know that the bull shark can exist in freshwater and saltwater?
Tell me again.
Holy shit!
That's Mel the first time he saw the hole.
That's the best use of that sound so far.
He walks outside the day after he throws his dog down the hole, and he sees his dog, and
Holy shit! Hey!
He's waving. He's waving at the goddamn dog. Hey!
I apologize.
Threw you down the well.
I apologize.
oh fuck.
Oh, god damn it.
Anyway, the end of this story. I'm trying to summarize like a 9-hour long story. The end of the story is that Mel moved to Australia because federal agents had seized his land from him.
He took his hole.
They took Mel's hole.
It's fucked up. That's fucked up.
They needed it, bro. They needed that magical hole.
I mean,
Mel's magical hole.
I definitely understand that if federal agents found a hole in the ground that you could throw dead and inanimate objects into that would come back alive, they would want to use that for something.
Some people have claimed to have found Mel's hole.
Oh,
Because he didn't give the exact location, obviously, because
They
it's
put
also
anything in it?
it's also his home, and he didn't want 20 million coast to coast weirdos showing up at his house the next day.
I mean, why not, man? Have a fucking party. Start a bonfire. Start fucking grilling some short ribs.
Art had some problems with people knowing where he lived,
Oh, yeah.
including, people shooting up his house, and
Federal agents mad because I'm flagrant.
His
Tap
kid-
myself.
his son got kidnapped at one point.
Shut up.
Yeah,
No, he
Art
didn't.
had some fucked up things happen to him over the years. Anyway, that's not the point of this Mel's Hole story. Somebody,
Speaking of our bells, kids got kidnapped. Anyway.
well, it's true.
I mean,
just
no.
one of them, but
He did have a lot of kids. He had like 6 kids, didn't he? 5? 5, 6?
I don't know. He was married like 3 or 4 times.
4, 5? Maybe even 5?
I don't know. Some local reporters eventually heard about the story and tried to investigate, and found no public records of anyone named Mel Waters residing in the county in Washington that he claimed to live in.
That's because he was keeping his identity secret.
Right. Also, according to State Department of Natural Resources geologist Jack Powell, the hole does not exist and is geologically impossible. Thanks for the clarification, Jack.
Oh, you're saying that a fucking 15-mile deep hole in the earth is impossible?
That's the point, Jack.
God.
Right over his head.
Whoosh. Have you seen people just tweeting whoosh at people when jokes go over their head?
No, but-
because that is my new favorite thing on the internet. Hitting
that
people
would
with the
apply here.
whoosh.
So if you want a good entry point to Art Bell multi-episode weirdness, Mel's Hole will keep you busy for like at least 8 or 9 hours.
Phrasing.
Fuck no.
Mel's Hole will keep you busy for a few hours.
The sweary boys have struck again in their sweariest of forums.
A personal favorite of mine is anytime that he had Terrence McKenna on the show.
Ooh.
There are some amazing Terrence McKenna, Art Bell talking about DMT episodes out there in
Is
the
this
world.
the same McKenna who was recently in Minnesota, or is that a different McKenna?
Terrence McKenna is dead. His brother, Dennis
McKenna.
right?
Yeah.
I believe lives in Minnesota and is
Because you worked at the U for a little while? Is that right?
I don't know if this is currently happening, but he was doing research at the University of Minnesota for a while.
That's tight.
Dennis McKenna, really his name?
Dan McKenna.
That's a fun thing to say.
Dennis McKenna.
Dennis McKenna.
Was he the captain of tennis?
I don't know if he's currently doing research at the U, but he got like permission to do some study on psilocybin at the University of Minnesota somewhat recently, within the last few years. What?
Because you're going to take some boomers and go fly in the alien ships.
Oh, that's why the Twilight Zone theme was necessary.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. He's had David Politis on the show a few times.
Answer our emails.
Okay, dude, I re-listened to the Politis interview on Coast to Coast, or this must have been Dreamland or Midnight in the Desert, because it's more recent.
Post, yeah.
It's more recent. But in the interview, David Politis says explicitly that he responds to every email he receives.
He's a fucking liar, because we've emailed him.
Fuck no.
3 times? 4 times?
Probably 4. I've tweeted at him. I tried Facebooking the dude. Nothing.
Yeah,
It's almost like he listens to our show where we occasionally roast him in his love of Bigfoot conspiracies.
We don't roast him as much as we think that if he thinks that all these disappearances are Bigfoot related, we don't believe that.
Dave, if you're listening, I've read your books and I would just like some clarification about certain aspects of them.
And the real shit is, like, I mean, we are both curious, genuinely about the topic. Like that. This is not.
That's why we're here, my guy.
This is not bullshit. We are not. We don't want to interview him to like goof him. We legitimately want to be like, bro, you've spent a lot of time on this. Like, tell us what you really think and why you really think it.
Also, what's up with all the feet washing up in Canada?
That's also
seems like that would be kind of your jam.
He didn't cut the feet off.
No, it seems like something he would be interested in.
I was
Dave's
like,
not a foot cutter.
Then he'll never interview with us if you insinuate he's a foot cutter.
We do.
What is that?
Stone cutter reference.
Oh,
maybe
you guys. We were at a bar the other night, and Spencer refused to do Simpsons trivia.
I was trying to watch the Wolves get into the playoffs.
Spencer refused to do Simpsons trivia.
I thought it was rude to do trivia during 2 local playoff games happening simultaneously. No one wanted to do Simpsons trivia.
He was protesting the concept.
Yeah, their timing is awful.
Meanwhile, every time they asked any fucking Simpsons trivia question over the fucking PA system in the bar, Spencer just leans over to me and answers it correctly every fucking time. I was like, bro, we could have ate and drank here for free the entire night. He's like, yeah, but I'm protesting the concept. And I was like, dude, don't protest the concept if you're going to fucking win us $100 worth of fucking beer and food.
If I really wanted to more effectively protest, I would have just shouted the correct answer every time.
No, because then we would have gotten kicked out of the bar and we wouldn't have been able to watch the rest of the fucking game.
But a lesson would have been learned by the Simpsons trivia folks that they are not welcome during Wild and Timberwolves playoff games.
All right, fair enough.
They wouldn't have learned that lesson, and we would have just gotten kicked out.
Yep. But we can hope.
But, you know.
So you re-listen to the Politis interview, and he talks about...
how he's going to respond to every email, and he doesn't.
And he doesn't, because we haven't gotten a response.
It's sort of...
we're going to keep trying, and if anything, we're going to fucking bum rush him with a microphone.
We're going to be in a room with him for at least a day. I'm going to ask him...
How can we not be like, dude, can we get 10 minutes of your time outside of this room?
I'm definitely going to ask him.
All right.
Yeah. It's not like a huge conference we're going to. I don't know if you've seen the Susan B. Anthony murder house.
I'm sorry. I fucking designated it the Susan B. Anthony murder house.
Also, I think
because of how small it is.
I think we have a 4th member, by the way. I think.
Sorry?
Chance texted me last night that I think he's buying a ticket to come with us.
York?
Yeah. Friend of the podcast, Chance York.
Wow. It was whole squad.
He was here the other day and it was snowing because we got like 1.5 feet of snow in the middle of April. And he was like, this sucks. I need to get out of here. When are you guys going to Denver?
You want to go to the mountains of Colorado?
Yeah, whatever. And we looked and the flight was like $70. So I think he's coming with us.
This shit just got so much more extra.
And we'll all save a little bit of money on the Airbnb.
I mean, I guess.
We got 5 beds. We got room.
All right, well, one more.
Yeah.
One lucky listener.
Meet us in Colorado. You can sleep on our couch in
Just
someone
kidding,
else's
guys.
home.
Just kidding. Don't.
Bring some weed.
Well, Colorado, I think, has plenty of it as far as they've informed us.
Exactly.
Dun, 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 dun.
Did we talk about? No, we didn't talk about Area 51 pilot yet.
We have brought up Area 51.
We just, yeah.
But that's a call I think we should probably play because I think this is maybe one of the
pretty
most
long.
It's like 2 minutes long.
No, it's not. I'll pull it up. It's 9.5.
No. The whole thing where the stream comes back up and they have a conversation about the stream after the fact is like 9 minutes.
What?
Well, we're gonna ruin it if we don't just play it. But the
I'm just telling you, it's 9.5 minutes. You really want to play it?
the first part is only 3 minutes where the guy calls in.
I'm telling you, that's false.
Okay, let's play and see what happens.
Okay.
Let me tell you, Art, answer the wild card line. My boyfriend is in a small plane north of Las Vegas, ready to fly into Area 51.
No. This
He's
is
been
not what
trying to
I'm
call
talking
you by
about.
cell phone.
What are you talking about?
We have not talked about this yet either. This was Art's. So Art had a habit of having a specific call on April 1st of every year that was potentially intentionally made to be more I don't know what the word is. They staged something a little bit more aggressive on April Fool's Day every year.
And that's...
The Cessna pilot flying over Area 51 getting shot down was an Area 50 or was an April 1st Area 51 call.
Okay, so what are you referencing?
I'm talking about the Area 51 call about the former Area 51 employee who called in.
Oh. Area 51 employee line? Maybe that's it?
Do you remember that line?
This is 5 hours.
That would be the entire episode. We do not want the entire episode.
Area 51 frantic caller, perhaps?
That's the one.
6 minutes?
So this is the one where only the first 3 minutes is
okay.
Is relevant enough for us to talk about it. And I guess the reason that I wanted to bring up this episode or this call specifically was, we kind of like we talk about how like Art indulged a lot of people and kind of pulled the best out of people or pulled their stories out of them. But also he did get a pretty significant number of, like you said, really interesting and very strange calls. And a lot of them were, when we talk about like hoaxes or whatever, like you said, to talk to someone for 90 minutes about an alien takeover from a time period in the future that you are calling from and not sound like an idiot, like that's fucking hard. And
we can't even talk for an hour about real things without sounding like idiots.
We sound like idiots every fucking 5 minutes.
Bull sharks.
But some of the calls that he got that are documented in some of the greats are especially kind of freaky, I guess. And I think for me, again, like Spencer has more of an experience with Art than I do, but of all the stuff that I've heard him do, this one was the one that freaked me out the hardest.
Awesome.
Online, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of
I remember
time.
this one.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really, really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. they have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharge.
I started getting...
Is that his phone cutting out or the radio transmission?
So we can kill the transmission at this point. The transmission comes back up in about, well, there's differing reports, but 15 to 30 minutes the stream comes back up.
The radio transmission, like
the radio
coast to
transmission.
coast transmission.
Yeah, so
got cut.
Yeah, so the interesting part about this story specifically, which contributes to the Art Bell lore and all of his, all of his listenership, you could tell there's like a very, you be the judge. I'll say it seems like a pretty real urgency in whoever's calling's voice. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's emotion there. I don't know where that's coming from.
People are capable of acting also, but yeah. Sure.
Yes, definitely. The sat link for his broadcast actually came down in the middle of that conversation, and the call was dropped and never able to come back up in either situation. And a lot of people point to this as sort of maybe Art was so tapped in that the government was listening and watching, and that they were getting too close to a true story, and he got booted off by some technology that basically kicked him off the stream at that time.
I don't know about in this case specifically, but I think it is very possible that Art Bell had some real enemies in the world.
I completely get that. The thing that's interesting to me about radio, especially radio in like the late 90s, was what this guy, again, like go back to the Washington Post description, he literally lived in a trailer on a chain link fenced chunk of land in the middle of Nevada with a satellite that linked to 400 other radio stations, and didn't screen his callers, notoriously didn't screen his callers. Mm-hmm. And anytime someone came in, that
mostly because he couldn't, because he ran the whole damn show by himself. Yeah.
And it was okay if he didn't, because it was in the middle of the night, so people could curse or whatever. I mean, it didn't happen much, but when it did,
he's probably still running a delay, I would guess. But
sure.
Whatever.
But long and short, like, it was very, like, all things considered, very free and very open and very immediate. Like, that was the kind of crux of a lot of what he did.
And because of the sort of open aspect of the open format aspect of the show, like, some pretty controversial topics were discussed sometimes.
Absolutely.
And he gave a platform of, it's one thing if you either yourself or by giving a platform to someone else put some kind of controversial opinions out into the world. It's different if 15 to 20 million people are listening to them, and you are a voice of authority to those people that listen to you every night.
Yep.
You're on the air 25 hours a week, and there are lots of people that listen to you every night.
Right. Where,
you feel like you know that person and you respect and have... you become an authority figure of sorts to your listeners. And if there are 20 million of them and you're talking about things, I mean, he didn't really shy away from political issues ever.
Yep.
He was pretty vocal about some of his own opinions when it came to politics. And I don't know. It seems very possible. Well, and I mean, we know that he did have some people that did not like him. He was forced off the air at least once I think twice, by threats to himself and his family, and his house was shot at because if you know, I mean, everyone basically knew where he lived.
Right. He wasn't fully like, he didn't try to hide it.
No, if you go to that town and you drive around for a while, you'll find the house that has a big ass satellite dish and the WNYE banner on the side of it. Like, he was accessible.
Right.
I don't know if 3 minutes of fielding a random phone call about Area 51 would be enough for him to get shut down, considering all the other things that he talked about on the show over the years and the people he had on. And
for sure.
It's plausible to me, though, I guess, especially considering his proximity to some Air Force and military installations.
Well, and one of the more interesting theories I've heard about Art that I do not claim to be true at all, but some people have posited that does he make for a good disinformation character by the U.S. government to take money from the government and to entertain all of these ideas and open phone lines and basically create a complete mishmash of what is real and what is false and what is true and what is not and what does the government think and what does the populace as a whole believe if we put it out there through the airwaves?
I mean, not coming from the government necessarily, but there is an example of this happening with Art in relation to the Hale-Bopp comet.
Yes.
The whole idea that there was a UFO trailing or hiding behind that comet
was popularized by his show.
Yeah, he was sent a photo. Someone got in contact with him saying, I have this photo.
They were a professor at some school.
From a reputable university saying, I have this image sourced from X University Observatory that shows something pretty clearly. Can I share it with you?
Right.
It was shared with him. He distributed it publicly, and then it turned out to be fake after he put it out, I think, on his website.
Right.
I guess it would have been his website. That was 90 something though, wasn't it?
Well,
however he got it.
He also discussed it on the show. He basically said,
I think he shared the actual image though, because
he did, but I'm also just saying, like, for broader distribution, he told people that this was a thing he had been sent.
So the concept was out there even more broadly, because I'm sure the radio show reached more people than his website did.
Right.
But somebody from said observatory got in contact with him and said, here is that same image that I took without that artifact in there.
You've been hoodwinked.
Yes. And unfortunately, that maybe led to the Heaven's Gate idea, or at least like influenced, like there are connections to real world. Yes. I guess I just bring it up to say, like, when you have 20 million people listening to you, what you say can have a real world effect on people.
No doubt. Your sphere of influence grows, and we don't have a tenth of Art Bell's like sphere of influence, and the more that we've done this show, the more that we realize that, like, the things we say, we get reactions from people, we get emails, we get tweets, we get, like, people are engaging with us more and more steadily and regularly the more that we do this show. And I think, like, knowing that in his world was meaningful times 100 is
right. We only have like 3 million listeners.
Yeah, exactly. And like 3 million listeners is, there's nothing compared to him. But his sphere of influence,
somewhere between 3 and 1 million listeners.
Yes. His sphere of influence was pretty great at the top of what he was doing. And it's interesting to posit what effects he could have had, both intentionally or unintentionally, as a person who continued to bring this type of content and story matter to the airwaves every day.
And I think his approach was, the show is entertainment, and we're here because we're curious about things.
And the world is greater than we think it is.
There's a lot of stuff in the world that we don't understand, and let's get together in the middle of the night and try and figure some of it out.
Yep.
And have some fun doing so. But, and I think his goal was to like seek that stuff out or be a sort of a facilitator for getting those ideas, those people, those conversations to his audience and letting the audience decide what they're going to do with it.
Completely.
I think in some ways that was maybe a flawed concept, just in terms of like, if you're on the radio every night for a decade and people listen to you hours a day, every day, you're not just a unbiased person passing along information. You sort of...
You become an authority.
Whether you want to or not, take on a different role in that process. But also, like, I don't know, is that his responsibility to filter that and distribute only the information that he thinks is viable and verifiable? And like, I mean, the show wouldn't have existed had he taken that approach. You can't do that and produce the show that he produced.
Right.
So, I mean, I think he would say that, like, he was given information, he passed it on to the listeners without saying this is true or this is not true or I can verify this or I can't.
It was a conduit.
Here it is. Do with it what you will.
Yep.
And that's what made that show so great is like, I don't know if this guy calling is an Area 51 employee or not. I'm honestly not that interested in finding out, but here he is.
Yeah.
And we're in this together, which as a listener brings you in more because you feel like you're on the same level as Art Bell is. You're there with him listening to this dude for the first time.
Right.
He has exactly as much information as you do. It's sort of a peek behind the curtain of like that you don't get with other shows ever.
You're discovering too.
Right. We're discovering this together in real time as it's happening.
It's a beautiful concept and beautifully executed. I'd love to you got one more?
Not really like a classic, so to speak, but I came across this for the first time when I was going back through a bunch of his stuff. I found an interview that he did with George Carlin.
Yeah.
That I'd never heard before. And, I mean, we don't need to get too deep into it, but like those two dudes just talking to each other for an hour and 15 minutes is one of the most entertaining things. It's one of the most entertaining hours of radio I think I've ever heard.
Phenomenal.
And Art, as he always does, just kind of lets him go and occasionally like interjects or brings him back or asks for clarification. But like we were texting about it today, Carlin goes on like a 10+ minute rant about how he cheers for natural disasters.
He wants the world to burn like so aggressively.
And he's like, Art was talking about how he had just experienced like an earthquake.
Yep.
And how Art had this thing about earthquakes, and he thought that they were a sign that the world was ending.
And there was going to be a bigger and bigger and bigger one.
The whole quickening thing that I read that book once. Is weird.
It sounds like it would be.
Yeah. He and I didn't agree on some things, and he made them more pronounced in his books than he did on the radio sometimes.
Got it.
Anyway, George goes on this rant about like he's cheering for natural disasters and he wants bigger earthquakes, and Art's like,
Carlin wants the population to die because he's disappointed.
Right. He's like, I think that humanity is screwed. Like we're past the point of return.
He actually said we're circling the drain
and he wants us to circle it faster. He's just cheering for all of these horrible things to accelerate so that we can just get it over with. And at one point, Art's like, we just had an 8.0 earthquake in wherever. And Carlin's like, great. How about a 25? Let's just
I wish it was a 25. And Art's like, George, that would flip the continent. And Carlin's like, great. Like, let it. Like he's fucking psyched.
He walks it back a little bit later. He's like, maybe like a 12 so I can watch. Because if it's a 25, we're just all dead right away. Yeah. I need like a 12, and I need it to start on the East Coast so I can watch the chaos coming from east to west and then get taken out last. Like I want to see all the chaos.
Totally.
And then be the last guy down the drain.
Carlin also says something really interesting right after that I actually wrote down, where he goes, I'm having fun with it, but I think what's really there is, and the quote is, when you scratch a cynic, you find a disappointed idealist underneath.
Yeah. That's totally Carlin.
Totally Carlin. And also, I would maybe make the argument that in some ways, art, maybe not as an idealist, but like is someone who's looking for something else, like looking for that bigger world. And Carlin too was saying like, I'm disappointed with what I've got here, so I want something different or bigger or better. I hoped for bigger or better or different, and so I'm going to think towards that. And I think Carlin's way of doing it
is give us a 25,
comic and disastrous and outrageous. Yeah. And Bell's way of doing that is cultivating a radio universe that he can live in. Yeah. That provides him an outlet that is something different than the world that he lives in. In fact, go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, I was just going to say the one of the quotes that I wanted to read before we closed out was from the same the Washington Post article that I started with from Mark Fisher, and Mark starts it with a quote from Art and then finishes the article with this little short paragraph. He says, this is the Art Bell quote. He says, quote, I move in and out of these two worlds every day. I need to have one to balance the other. I can do my 5 hours of the present pathetic state of the world, and then I need the other hours to have my own world. In the middle of the night, in a trailer deep in the desert, with his wife sleeping in the other room, Art Bell sits alone like the rest of us, vulnerable. The desert remembers everything we want to forget, the bombs and experiments, secrets and lies, while listeners lie in their beds also wanting to forget. And Art Bell helps them to remember the things they never knew.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I think this whole article about art that Mark wrote is just really fantastic. And I found a real pairing between what Carlin said and the end of that and the way that he wraps that about
totally
him spending 5 nights a week, 5 hours at a time, choosing to say, I'm going to live in this world. I'm going to create this world. I'm going to be the vector for this to exist.
And I think that's where art kind of crossed into like art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a moment in that interview with Carlin too, where Carlin talks about comedy as art. And, he says like, that may sound kind of silly, but like it is,
right.
It's a creative, expressive form.
Yeah.
And I'm writing and performing and like, it is my art.
Totally.
And I think through radio, Art Bell kind of took it to the same place where it's like, I'm creating something. I have a vision of what I want it to be. I'm working towards creating it. And in the same way that like comedy or other art forms can be like extremely isolating. Mm-hmm. And, you hear stories all the time of comics being sort of like solitary, kind of messed up people and
right.
like
poets
having some antisocial tendencies and artists and musicians and poets and all that stuff. Like, I think art was very much in that world.
Absolutely.
And it's a big reason why that show transcended radio to be something bigger than it was. And the other stuff that he worked on got to a level that talk radio shows don't get to.
Right. Especially ones that are about the subjects that art chose to entertain every night.
He took an extremely fringe set of topics and a very open format and built a community of like 20 million people.
Right.
That's insane. By himself, mostly.
To be one of the most popular radio shows of all time.
Yeah.
And one that kind of, honestly, we probably wouldn't be here without.
Oh, there's us and so many other shows too.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude created a whole genre.
Right. We out of here. Thanks, Art. Rest in pieces.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
It's always exciting to me when somebody like, it's a weird way to put it, but like, I'm excited for that dude considering like he had the life that he had and seemed mostly like a pretty happy dude. Like now he knows what's on the other side. You know, that quote we opened with, like it's the biggest mystery of all of life. And like, you know, he's not trying to get there, but like we're all gonna get there. And it is inherently the paranormal.
Right.
And now he knows.
Time is undefeated.
And he's over there with Carlin probably.
Yep. Probably drinking a beer, cracking some jokes.
We out of here!
R.I.P. style icon, Art Bell.
Yeah.
Dude had the best press photos in the history of press photos.
It's his high bridge glasses, black
turtleneck, gold chain every time.
Smoking Carlton cigarettes like a fucking boss.
All right, man. We out of here till next week.
Love y'all.
Peace.
We'll be back next week with another episode of the What If Podcast. Learn more at www.whatifpodcast.com.